Good evening, everyone. We'll go ahead and get started. My name is Jeff Herbal. I'm the IT Director for Enid Public Schools. We have three others of these presentations going on tonight, all at our secondary schools. I'd like to thank you guys for coming out and staying for this late meeting. We're going to go over EPS.connect. EPS.connect is the district's one-to-one initiative that was passed in our bond that was done last year. And we would like to thank all of our voters for passing the bond. Without the bond, we would not be doing this project. It is just with the current financial status of funding and education, it was just cost prohibitive to do it without the bond. So we do appreciate all the support that community gave us as part of the bond. We're going to talk a lot about our Chromebook deployment, but we're also, as part of the one-to-one, going to be giving out iPads. We're going to be doing iPads in pre-K through second, and those will be in carts in the classroom that will stay in the classrooms. And then in our grades 3 through 12th, we will be deploying Chromebooks. 3 through 5 will stay at their school in carts, and 6 through 12 will be given to the students to take home. So I'm going to cover our mission, why we're doing this one-to-one, why a device itself, and how is that going to help Enid Public Schools, our teachers, and our students transform teaching and learning throughout our district. We'll go into details about the EPS.connect rollout, and then we'll have some time at the end for some question and answers. EPS.connect is founded on the mission and goal from our district strategic plan. We did a strategic plan 2 years ago where we brought in many community members, many parents. We brought in students, teachers. There was we had 2 or 3 community meetings, and we had some really in-depth discussions as we narrowed down our goals and focuses for our strategic plan. And one of those items that came out of the strategic plan was our one-to-one, along with the bond issue and all the other things that were passed as because of it. Our goal is to help prepare our students for the future. I was talking in a hall a minute ago with a gentleman. He was saying that when he started his job, he used to have a binder of information, and every 6 months he had to throw that binder away and replace it with an exact new binder of information. But today it's all updated automatically on a device. That's where we are today in technology, and that's why we have to help our students prepare for the future. We in education continue to teach like we've taught for the last 100 of years, and we're working to become modern, and we've got to get our students to that stage to where they are prepared once they leave our district. As part of the strategic plan, we talked about making sure that all of our learners are fully equipped, well-rounded global citizens. And what do we mean by well-rounded global citizens? What that means is we want our students to be prepared for whatever job that they take after they get through college or high school or college. If you were in the meeting earlier, they talked a little bit about preparing your student for the future and whatever their career path will be. And we want to help our students prepare for that. And we believe technology is a vital component of that. There are so many jobs out there that you can't do without technology. And yes, there are some. You may never use it. But those jobs keep dwindling down, and the majority of our jobs keep adding more and more need for our technology. As part of our overall goal is to make sure not only that we give a device to a student and just say, here, take this and learn. We know we have a responsibility to train our teachers and train our students to be responsible with our devices. So we've set a goal of making sure we're good global citizens, and part of that is making sure they're good digital citizens. And what is a digital citizen? What is a digital citizen? A digital citizen is someone that's out in the digital world using technology, whether it's on a computer, on a device, on their smartphone, whatever app or site you may be going to, they need to be responsible and know what is proper and what is not proper. And we have them for 6 hours a day. It's ideal that we help them prepare for being responsible. I don't think they talked about it in the previous meeting, but as more and more students go out into the workforce, they're not aware of some of the stuff that they post in social media and how that will affect them in getting a job or actually getting into college. But more and more colleges are going to students' Facebook pages and all their other social media sites, seeing what they've posted and trying to decide if that student is right for the college or for jobs. So as our responsibility, we feel, is we must prepare our students and work with them on learning good digital citizenship. And we think that, along with teaching them how to use a device and how to use the technology that we have, the majority of the world no longer uses a pencil and paper to keep your statistics, your checkbooks, or that type of thing. The majority of people use either an online system or an application or a smart device. So that's why we teach them Excel instead of doing it on pen and paper. So there are more and more things in our life that are going to a digital format. So to do that, we understand we have to work for, I'm sorry about that, that's not real good. We have to work toward transforming our teaching and learning. So classrooms of today continue to change, and we're working on a focus of more of a student-centered approach. And talked about earlier, the state has reduced our requirement on state testing. And we believe that's a great thing because it will allow us to focus more on students being creative and working on their critical thinking skills and preparing them to be able to handle tough things that come up when they are out in the real world. We have seen with the limited deployment that we have now, student engagement has increased. Our students are more focused. They're more attentive to their learning. We've actually had we call it a pilot, it's not really a pilot, but we've had Chromebooks in 3 elementaries, 3 through 5th, for the last 2 years. Those classes have seen disciplinary problems go down, performance go up, and students more engaged in their learning. So we believe that model will work across our district. It will also allow us to give quicker feedback on how a student is performing. Instead of taking a test and waiting a week for a teacher to grade it and give it back, we'll either be able to do it right then or quickly after that, and they'll be able to see that and learn or adjust for what they need to learn or what they've not been able to grasp. The teacher will be able to focus in on the areas of need better for their students. I talked about students being more creative. Our devices will allow them to reach new potentials. We have a lot of great things going on in our district, and as we continue to give these students more openness in allowing them to learn and explore their horizons with the technologies that we have, we keep seeing more and more creativeness out of our students, them willing to expand their horizon. It also allows us to expand communication and collaboration. We have classrooms doing mystery Skypes with authors throughout the U.S. So with a device, the student will be able to actually interact with a author that the classroom may be reading their book on. So to me, that's a great experience. You actually get to ask questions of someone that you're studying about, and they can interact and do that with the devices that they have. It'll also help them learn organizational skills, in productivity skills, especially as they're in high school and preparing to go to college. It will allow them to gain ownership of their learning. We see more and more of our students being more responsible for what they're doing. It helps eliminate the excuse of my homework was eaten by the dog or left on the bus or whatever. If they're doing it in an online environment, they're able to do that work either in a classroom or at home, and they're submitting it directly to the teacher. And like I said a minute ago, they're able to get quicker feedback on how that's going to get done. They're able to stay in touch with the teachers inside and outside of school. So if students working at night, they've got a question, they can chat with the teacher if they're available and get that feedback instead of waiting until the next day. Students will also be able to share their information to a larger audience. There's a lot of avenues they can do that with, but we see a lot more of student-created videos, blogs, with them expressing their learning and actually getting feedback. We have some students that are doing book reports on an actual book, and then they'll post it to a blog or a wiki site, and the author will actually reply back and give them some insight as to what they're thinking about or why they wrote the paragraph or the chapter of a book. So it opens them to more experience and gives them a broader range. It gives them a richer learning experience. This is a good example of what I was talking about. This classroom is chatting with a professor as they're talking about some insects. I think that's a tick. So they're actually able to do research on the tick as they're actually talking with a scientist or someone that actually works in that environment. As a student gets to high school and prepares for college, we want them to be ready for career in college. And like I said earlier, there's not many jobs you don't have to have technology. At Walmart, you have to know technology. Registers are very important. If you're a cashier, if you're in the back taking stock, you have to use devices to manage inventory. If you're in the pharmacy, you're using a computer to track prescriptions. So almost every facet of a job nowadays has that, and students will be prepared for whichever area they decide to go into, and whether that's college or a career. Now to some of the actual meat of the meeting, devices and why we did what we did, or doing what we did. I mentioned pre-K through second and third through 12th. We had a technology committee that met for about 8 months, and we talked about all the different reasons why certain age groups should have certain devices. And we believe an iPad is more appropriate for an early childhood. It's easier to handle. The touchscreen makes it more easy for that early childhood student to interact with the device. There's not as much typing needed when they're at that age. So it's a better device. However, as they start getting into third grade and start needing to be more interactive with a computer, we looked large and far for what was the proper device. We've had laptops in our district for quite a while. They've been in cart environments. One of the issues we've had with that is they don't have good battery lives, and they're only able to be used for a couple hours a day. The Chromebooks on a full charge will work for 9 to 10 hours. So as long as they come to school charged, they should get through the day, and then some into the evening. And I did point out, as long as they're charged, as our students take devices home, we will ask that they charge their device every night and have it charged when they come back to school. That way it's ready. We will have some charging areas available if they forget, or if something happens and the device actually just doesn't charge overnight. All of our devices will come with cases. We looked about durability, and if we send devices home, how are we going to protect those devices? The Chromebooks have the case that's on the top. left-hand corner. It's called a gumdrop case. That case is rated for a drop of 8 feet on a concrete floor, and we've tested it. It works. I could throw it here and smash it against the wall, and it wouldn't break. They're very durable. We're very pleased with the case. The case on the upper right hand is what our iPads will be in. We've tested those in Carver Elementary, and they work really, really well. The handle gives the students the ability to carry it and also flips over so they can tilt and use it instead of having to lay flat. So we put a lot of time and thought into what is the best and why we go with what device we are planning to go with. Now, I've talked a lot about the Chromebooks and the iPads, but overall, it is just a device. It is just a tool. It's another part of learning. Just like a textbook is a tool that we use to educate our students, the Chromebook is a tool. Teachers will still have to work on pedagogy. They'll still have to work on lesson plans. They'll still have to integrate standards and objectives into their lessons. We've worked a lot on teacher professional development, preparing our teachers for this. We have another big training PD day on January 4th, and it's going to focus on devices in the classroom and preparing our teachers to make sure that they're prepared to actually provide the education with the devices. And we want our students and our teachers to be comfortable using the devices in the classroom. So we want everyone to understand it is just a tool, and it should be used at times and it should not be used at times. It all depends on what the educational practice or the lesson that's going on in the classroom at that time. We have spent a lot of time in our district working on what we want to use with our Chromebooks and how we're going to provide a platform that is more structured for our teachers and students, and so we're not having to train the thousands of different things that are out there. The district adopted Google Apps for Education 2 years ago. Google has had that platform in place for over 6 years. It's matured and keeps maturing. It allows us to collaborate and share documents. Google has created a Google Classroom that teachers can interact with their students, make assignments, students can return those assignments, and they're able to do that in an online safe environment that is secure using a student's login. And along with that, we wanted to make sure everyone knows students do have a district email account. They've actually had those for 2 years. Some students know that, some do not. The account is or does have to be used to log into the Chromebook. It will also give them access to district email. We have a Exchange email server that we filter and monitor all of our activity on. So we provide them a secure communication format to where they can interact with the teachers and other students in the classroom. And as I mentioned, the Chromebooks require an account login. It is a Google account login that's tied to the district email account. We've worked a lot to make sure that the logins that the students use will get them access, and no other person will be able to get into that device if they don't have a district login. So what does that mean? I've had a lot of questions about what happens if the device is stolen, or if they want to go, it winds up at a pawn shop or whatever. The device will not work if someone tries to use their personal Google account. So it's another way for us to add security and deterrence, but it's also a way to ensure that these devices are used solely by our district. And that's another question I get asked. How are the devices to be used? They are for educational purposes, and they're to be used by the student for educational purposes. And there's always the question of filtering. Indiana Public Schools is required to follow the Child Internet Protection Act. It's a federal law that requires that we filter all student computer access while on district property. We certify that we do that, we follow that guideline. Our devices that go home will be filtered with the same standard that they do if they're sitting in our classroom. So I've already had someone ask, will I need to purchase my own filtering software? The answer is no. First of all, because you can't install it on the device. So what happens is if you're sitting at home, student logs into the Chromebook, that device actually, through the internet, goes back into the district's server room and then goes out to the internet before the student ever makes a connection to the internet. So if they can't get to it at the district, they can't get to it at home. We block social media, we block streaming video sites, and anything that is deemed inappropriate. We've also established what we call some student expectations. The first would be to follow the EPS.connect Handbook, and that is the document that was outside or Lenita handed out. We've contacted other school districts, tried to find out the best way to handle student deployments. We've contacted over 20 school districts that have already done this. So we've talked to them about the things that worked and things that didn't, and we then put our twist onto the student handbook. We think it's a good guideline for our students. The district has an internet and network acceptable use and internet safety policy. That policy has been in place for about 15 years. It gets updated every few years to match the requirements for federal and state guidelines. Every year when you guys fill out your InfoSnap or your online enrollment, you click a box that's saying you're agreeing to that and your student is going to follow that. We ask that our students understand that and know what is proper and what is not. And that will also be covered in our education of our students as we work on digital citizenship. We also ask that they follow the code of conduct. Students are required to follow the district's code of conduct, and as long as they follow the guidelines that are listed right here, we do believe there should be very minimal issues with our devices. Students in grades 6 through 12, we do ask that you charge the devices every night. Students may use the device to take notes in class. That's something we're going to have to work with our teachers because the student's head may be down and they may not think they're paying attention, but they may be typing notes. So we will work with our students and our teachers to understand that students can and should be allowed to use these devices in classroom to take notes. But students also need to know that if they're using them to take notes, they should be taking notes and not doing something off task. We ask that the devices be kept in the provided case. Like I talked about earlier, the case is provided to keep damage to a minimum, and if they get taken out, that could increase the chance of getting damaged. Once again, they should be used for educational purposes only. And then basic care, and that's making sure you don't leave it laying around in the classroom or on a bus or in the back seat of your car and someone puts a heavy device on it and crushes it, or someone spills a drink on it. We understand those things may happen, but we ask that we just take care of the devices, do what you can to keep them safe, but we do understand that damage can happen. And what if damage happens? We know it's going to happen. It just does. I've got 2 children. I understand that completely. We work with our library media specialists. They will be the go-to person if a device is damaged or not working. The student will tell the teacher that they're having a problem, and they'll go to the library and work out that issue. What if it gets stolen? We need you to report that to your library media specialist immediately. If the device is actually stolen, we'd ask that you call the police and fill out a police report and turn that police report into us so that we can work with the police to find that device. Simply not working devices, if it just doesn't charge right or something stops working, the library media specialist will swap out a device with the student, and student will then take that device and it will be their device, and they won't have to go back and worry about what happened to that device at all. We're using district's Destiny system. That's what we use to track textbooks and library books, to track the devices. So we'll be tracked back to the student. So if a student leaves or transfers to another school, the school will handle that just like they do textbooks or library books. They'll go to the library, they'll find out what books they have out, they'll see if they have a Chromebook checked out, they'll know they have to return that also. And the librarian will also give them information on the incident if there's any incident that occurs. And how are we going to pay for the incidents? The newspaper incorrectly published that there would be an upfront fee. That is not the case. They've corrected it online for us. So there will not be, I'm sure they understand, there will not be a fee charged to a student to take the device. However, if there is damage or theft or loss of the device, we will charge an incident fee. Just like if a textbook is lost or damaged, students are charged for the textbook loss or damage. We've come up with a tiered approach of 20 for the first incident, 40, and 60. The fourth time, hopefully we never get to a fourth time, but if we get to a fourth or more, that will be a sit-down talk with the principal and a parent about what keeps happening to the devices and why things keep getting damaged, and then we'll work out from the principal how to go from there. And this is in the handbook. I want to point out, an incident is anything defined as damaged, lost, stolen, device, that's the Chromebook, the case, or the power cord. That little pesky power cord is about half the price of that Chromebook. It's crazy how much that power cord costs. So if a student does lose that, they will be asked to purchase or pay the incident fee to get another one. If there is a hardship in the family, you will be able to work with the administration at the school to take care of this, or we'll work for sponsors or whatever, scholarships of that fee. The handbook you have in front of you, we've spent a lot of time working on it. The handbook it's online. We printed it out for every one of our meetings, and at the end of it, the very last page, there is a parent-student permission acknowledgement form. We'd like for you to return that during your students' advisory class at the middle schools or here at the high school. It will be their English class, and that's letting us know that you understand the handbook and the processes that we have gone through.